sportspicks.com and send.
Hey guys, what's going on? I am Matt O'Leary hanging out with you on another episode of the Jet Report, coming to you live on a Wednesday afternoon. A nice day here. The cold, it's still a little chilly, but not like as cold as what it was, which I will take that as a major win. Chalk that one up as a W. Today we are going to be getting into a few different things. We're going to be talking about Robert Saleh talking about the run game, why that is important and why the run game's been struggling. But before we hop into that, I want to remind you that the show is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Use my promo code Matt to sign up. You get a 100% match deposit bonus when you sign up. They have a ton of daily fantasy games. It's a whole lot of fun over there. You could do the head-to-head. Those are my favorites, doing the head-to-head battles with the guys. So if you want to get in on the fun, join, hit the link down below in the description. Use my promo code Matt and my exclusive link, and have a lot of fun out there, because that's what I'm going to be doing while playing Underdog Fantasy. Love it. So what I wanted to do was, as I said, kind of get into the Jets' struggles in the run game, because it hasn't been good. We're going to listen to Robert Saleh talk about why they have struggled, and then we're going to, from there, look at the numbers over the last few weeks, and of course, answer your questions, which has been the whole point of this, why we're doing this and why we're having a good time. So let's pull it up. Robert Saleh talks about the Jets' struggles.
Robert, how much of the struggles you guys have experienced in the run game these last couple of weeks were a result of defenses loading up the box and selling out to stop the run? And as just a quick follow on that, do you think having Mike back in there, you could potentially have the pass game set up the run game now by attacking teams over your open?
For sure, teams are stacking the box and expecting us to, or daring us to throw it and beat them that way. And usually that comes with the weather. It's a lot harder to throw the football this time of year than it is earlier in the year. And you got to earn the right to back them off. And does Mike help that? We'll find out. But at the end of the day, we're in playoff type football, crappy weather. You've got to be able to run the football.
So the Jets got to be able to run the football, and they have to earn the right to back them off. So what does that mean? Well, they've been stacking the box the last couple of weeks, and the run game has really suffered. Really the last 3 weeks. Over this losing streak, they haven't run the ball as well. Against Minnesota, they had a pretty solid game. I mean, if we pull it up, I believe Bam Knight went over 90 yards in this one. I'm just kind of curious to see where he ended up. Yep, 15 carries, 90 yards. He was impressive in that one. But, you know, other than that, it's been a really rough go of the running game. 76 yards, 50 yards, 66 yards. That ain't good. It's not good enough. That's not the recipe for success for this team. It's going to be very, very difficult to win in the NFL that way. and to win consistently enough. I don't see how you possibly do it. To be completely honest with you, I don't see how you do it unless you improve on the running game. But rushing attempts, or rushing yards, 76 against Buffalo, not going to cut it. 50 against Detroit is absolutely not going to cut it. And then 66, it goes up a little bit, but your leading rusher, we could pull it up for you. Your leading rusher was Chris Trevler with 54 rushing yards. And still, that's not nearly effective enough. 20 carries, and that still gets you only 66 yards. For those keeping track at home, 66 over 20. That's 3.3 yards per carry. That's not going to cut it, man. It's just not good enough. You can't be competitive on offense like that. And the Detroit game was honestly worse. They had their leading rusher was Zonovan Knight with 23 yards on 13 carries. That's terrible. That's not good enough. And I know that he was banged up and Michael Carter's really struggled, but they need to get these guys in gear and quick. 50 yards on 22 carries is 2.3 yards per attempt. That's not good enough, man. It's not going to be good enough. So that's where the New York Jets need to see an improvement in this offense. With Mike White, what their plan is going to be, or they should theoretically be able to get the ball down the field more. Actually, I just want to back this up 1 second, because you'll see in the games where they started with Mike White, you'll see the passing yards. If we go back to that screen for a second. Now, this includes sack yards lost, 308, 366, and 233. That's specifically the first two games against Minnesota and Chicago. That's been some of the better offensive performance. They had 466 yards against Chicago, 486, nearly 500 yards of offense against the Minnesota Vikings. With the threat of being able to throw it down the field a little bit more, it's going to back the defense off. They're not going to be able to stack the box. And specifically against the Seattle Seahawks team, guys, this is one of the worst teams in football against the run. We looked at it briefly yesterday. We'll go into it a little bit in the video tomorrow coming out on the preview of this game. But how they rank, we could pull it up right now. Here's where they rank against the run in the NFL. In attempts, 31st in yards, 29th in touchdowns, 25th in yards per attempt. That is a bottom of the league rush defense, and that's how you should be able to take advantage of it. So need the Jets to start getting this run game in order, and now would be a really good time to, against a team, as we mentioned, not very good against the run. If there was ever a time for you to snap out of it, this would be your time. This would be the time, and with Mike White coming back, we've seen it in the past game where the offense just feels like they're in sync a little bit more with him running the show. And we'll see if it impacts the run game. I hope it does, because, as I said, it's not competitive enough when you're not able to run the ball. Sure, some of that has to do with the offensive line. They've been extremely banged up. We'll see. Their season is on the line, so you're going to need to see their A game brought up. So let's get into the chat now. We'll go through. We'll hang out for 40 minutes or so, and just go through and take a look at some of the chat here. John's in here, says, what's going on? Jets Forever is in here as well. Brian Bogan, a member of the channel, says Jets will be lone survivors in Geno Smith revenge tour. LOL. I hope so. Really do hope that's the case. Geno Smith has really had a nice revival season for the Seattle Seahawks. You're just looking at his numbers. 27 passing touchdowns, 70.7 completion percentage is really solid. 102.9 rating. Good stuff for Geno. I'm happy for him. But hopefully he does not come away with the win. And they've been struggling a little bit over their last, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games. They've lost 5 of 6, and their one win came against the Los Angeles Rams, and the Rams were starting Wolford in that game. So not a super impressive mark, to say the least. Jericho says, new run game coming according to Jason LaConforna article. Woody about to fire LaFleur. I don't think that's going to be the case. I don't think the Jets are going to make any changes to either coordinator spot or any big changes on the coaching staff. I think they want to see, the growth continue. I don't think they really want much turnover, to the staff. And it's hard to blame them for that because they've taken strides. They've gotten better this year. So, is there still room for improvement? Of course, there's always going to be more room for improvement, but um, I don't see them moving on from LaFleur after this year. Brian says Jets are 7-1 when they run for 85 yards. They're 0-7 when they fall below that total. That is a really good stat to have. This is the identity of the team. They have to be able to run the ball. Obviously, losing Brees Hall hurts that a lot. But Bam Knight has been a nice fill-in. Michael Carter's got to get back on track. Ty Johnson has been a little bit better as the season's gone on, but you've had a little bit of a break now where it's like an extended bye. It's not exactly a bye week because you played last week, but it was on Thursday compared to playing on Sunday. So you have a few extra days of rest. Hopefully that helps as the unit feels like they're just a little bit banged up right now. Lynchpin says run game will continue to struggle if the O-line continues to struggle. No reason MC and Bam Knight can't be effective in the backfield. What else we got? Sorry, it just jumped down a second. Hopefully they get a good amount of touches in Seattle and open up the passing game. There you go. Brian, let's go down to his member chat. He is a member for a month. Thank you for joining. If you want to join the membership as well, you can do so by hitting the join button down below. He says, I don't see the Pats beating either Miami or Buffalo. That means we're currently in the playoffs. Starting this week, we win all the way to the Super Bowl. Brian, I hope that is the case. We are all going to be big Teddy Bridgewater fans this week, as that's who the Miami Dolphins are playing. Now, if you look at and we'll do that now, we'll take a look at the NFL playoff picture. The Los Angeles clinched a spot in the playoffs. They will be a playoff team, and really it looks like it's between the Jets, the Dolphins, and the Patriots for that final spot. Let's pull that up and scroll this down so we could see. On the bubble is the Jets. Well, Miami's 8-7 right now. New England is 7-8, and the Jets are 7-8. So obviously, need to win to stay alive. Would like to take 2 in a row to get you over 500. The first time they would be over 500 since 2015, which would be really big. Obviously, we know how 2015 ended. They did not make the playoffs, which was really unfortunate. But for this one, I would have to imagine that the Patriots are going to have a hard time in Buffalo in Week 18. Buffalo still has a lot to play for. They're 12-3. The Chiefs are also 12-3, but they need to finish with the same record or better in order to win that one, in order to clinch the 1 seed. And down here too, Cincinnati, if they beat them, right, and let's say they're both 12-4. Then they would Cincinnati would jump up in front of the Bills to the 2 spot, assuming the Chiefs win, and then the Bills would drop down to 3. There's a big difference between the number 2 and the number 3 spots. Yes, there's still only one bye at this point, but they're more than likely are going to be playing for something in Week 18. So I would have a hard time thinking that they can't take care of business in Week 18. Jets Chaos is hanging out with us. He says, what's up, brother? What's up, Jets Chaos? Hope you're doing well. Hope you had a nice holiday season and coming up a happy new year. Darren says Sauce needs to follow DK. I understand why fans say that and want that, because Sauce is obviously this is pretty big breaking news, actually. Hold on. So according to Adam Schefter, the Las Vegas Raiders are benching Derek Carr. So a potential option for the New York Jets in 2023 gets benched in favor of Jared Stidham. They are obviously out of the mix. They want to see what they have. Pull that up right now because obviously this is a pretty big story. Raiders are benching Derek Carr and turning to Jarrett Stidham as their new starting quarterback. Carr has thrown a league-leading 14 interceptions, includes 3 Saturday night in a 13-10 loss to the Steelers. Stidham had thrown only 61 passes and has never started an NFL game. Yikes. That's tough. To me, that shows that they want to move on. I don't know if they're going to necessarily bring him back. 14 interceptions and is not terrible. Obviously, you want that number to be a little bit lower, but still a solid quarterback. 60.8 completion percentage, 3,500 yards with 2 games to go, 234.8 yards per game. I thought it was really solid in 2021, where he had 282 yards and 94 rating, but a potential option for the New York Jets going forward. I'm sure you guys in the comments are going to have your takes on it. It's a polarizing one. I feel like a lot of people either love him or hate him, but that's big. And to me, that kind of shows that they are potentially considering moving on from him. Micro Fox says, I think Bridgewater can get it done. I hope so. He is a solid backup. Let's pull up numbers. I had him earlier. He hasn't played that much. Only started 1 game, and he got hurt in the game he started against the Jets, but 23 of 34, 67.65 completion percentage, 329, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions against the Minnesota Vikings. Was also okay against Cincinnati when he had to come in for Tua when he was injured the first time. So something to keep an eye on there. Yeah, Zach Hunko says breaking Raiders are benching Carr. Glad we brought that one up. Anthony says O-line is really not good. Losing Brees really hard. Yeah, not only losing Brees Hall, but losing Elijah Vera Tucker. The two of them is just, they were really a dynamic duo, and it's really unfortunate that that they lost them both in the same game, and the season kind of derailed for a little bit after that. They have a chance to get it back on track, and they have a chance to, turn this around and be a playoff team in 2022. But it's tough. Mark Miller says, I want to see Mike White resting on the bench in the fourth quarter, just winking at everybody. So there you go. I guess that would mean a Jets blowout win. I'll sign up for that. Micro Fox says another team to root for is the Jaguars, because if the Titans take the division, then the Jaguars will compete with the Jets for the last spot. We own the tiebreaker with the Titans, not the Jaguars. Okay, there you go. I think the Jaguars control their own destiny, though. Their schedule is, I think they have another game against the Tennessee Titans. They don't. Mistaken. Yeah, no, they do. They close out the season against the Tennessee Titans. So one of them will drop to 9 losses, and the other will win the division. So I don't think you really have to worry about that one too much. Micro Fox says, I think the Jets are at least a 10-win team with Derek Carr. Yeah, probably. Yeah, I would say yes. I agree. Kane Smith says, Matt, where would you rather fix offensive tackle, draft, or free agency? Let's say we make the playoffs, but lose in the wild card game and get picked like any prospects you want there. Yeah, I would think offensive tackle in the first round makes a lot of sense. I was actually looking up some tackles earlier on today. I think Paris Johnson is my favorite. There's a few offensive tackles who could potentially be there in the first round. I'll list off the Georgia one. Broderick, I think, is another interesting one. He's a big guy. Roderick Jones from Georgia. Peter Skornowski from Northwestern. Anton Harrison from Oklahoma. Those are really the 4. I think those, in whatever order you want to put them in, those are the top 4. And I think 1 or 2 of them have the potential to be there for the Jets if they're picking in the high teens, let's say. But my favorite is, I think, Paris Johnson, personally. Dan NY says, who do you think had a better rookie year on the edge, Clemens or Jermaine? Let's pull up the numbers side by side. I feel like we've seen a little bit more from Jermaine, but that's not to say that I didn't think Michael Clemens had a nice as a pass rusher. Let's go down here. and take a look. Jermaine Johnson, 2.5 sacks. Oh, let's switch. Jermaine Johnson right here, 2.5 sacks, 26 tackles, 3 tackles for a loss. I want to see his snap percentage. That's going to be important to see too. If we scroll down, snap counts on 33% of snap counts were his numbers. And how many pressures does it have? 3 pressures, 2.5 sacks. As for Michael Clemens, here we go. 2 sacks, 3 tackles for a loss, 5 quarterback hits, 2 hurries, 6 pressures, on 27% snaps. The play that stands out is, to me, is the sack in the Buffalo game that Jermaine Johnson had. I don't think either have really been given a huge opportunity because of how deep the Jets' defensive line is, but I think both guys are going to be pretty solid pieces on this team. I like it. I like both of them a lot. J-Boy says, Jets need to pay Big Q so I can buy a jersey. Only have one, and it's Zach's. Ooh, that's a tough one. They need to figure something out with Quinnen Williams. I agree with that. I think that he is a big piece to this team going forward into next year and beyond. Yeah, Anthony S. asked me about Hendon Hooker. We talked a little bit about him yesterday. Not really interested. Project quarterback who I think is going to go in the second round. I don't think he gets there to the third round. He's 25 years old and has been hurt twice. So I'd pass. He's a little too scary for my liking. Of the 2 project quarterbacks, I prefer Anthony Richardson. I think he's going in the first round though. And with the Jets' need at tackle, I wouldn't take him in the first round. And I think there's honestly going to be a chance that he goes before the Jets pick in the first round. Sneakers to Boots. He asks, who should we start looking at to bring in for our quarterback room? Calabrese is learning on the job. Not something we need right now. That's a fair point. The name that people are going to continue to bring up is going to be, oh my God, why am I blanking on his name? The Colts, the former Colts coach, Frank Reich. Frank Reich obviously had a really good reputation as a quarterback coach before he was hired away by the Indianapolis Colts. He was the OC with the Philadelphia Eagles in 2016 and 17, and then was hired after that, and obviously had some initial success. He had a million different quarterbacks there in Indianapolis. Tough job. He was also the OC for the Chargers in 2014 and 2015. He's just an experienced guy. Played the position and is local. He's from Freeport, Freeport, Long Island. So that's, I don't know if you're going to get him as a quarterback coach. I feel like he could probably get an OC job somewhere, I'd imagine, but you never know. See what else we got in here. JK says Paris Johnson seems to be the safest. I kind of agree with that. I like him a lot. I just feel like he's steady, which the Jets could use that. They took a really big swing with Mekhi Becton, a boomer bust player. He's been hurt, so I think you need safe is okay. Safe isn't always a bad thing. Edward Anderson Jr. says, I feel like Tannehill would be a good pickup. I'm really not the biggest Ryan Tannehill. He would be better than what the Jets have had, but I don't love him. In 12 games, 65.2 completion percentage, 13 touchdowns, 6 picks, 211.3 yards per game. His best year was 2019. When he came in and replaced Marcus Mariota. That's probably when he was at his best. He's been okay. I prefer someone like a Carr or probably even Jimmy G over Ryan Tannehill, to be completely honest with you. But Would certainly be better than running it back with Zach Wilson right now. Green Truth says Skoronski and Johnson will be gone before the Jets pick. Potentially, but it depends on what order people rank the tackles. I've seen some that prefer Jones. I've seen some that prefer Harrison. It kind of reminds me of 2020 when there were like the four or five main offensive tackles, and it was, you had Mekhi Becton and Andrew Thomas and Tristan Wirfs and Jedrick Wills. Those are the big four, and they all were in varying orders. I kind of feel like it's similar. Again, I probably prefer Johnson and Skoronski comparatively to the other two. So if it were up to me, I would probably take them before, but it's dependent on how the board breaks, obviously. But I think that's a fair point, Green Truth. Sneakers to Boots comes back. He says, think the Jets make stipulations with Zach that he sees a sports psychologist or a psychiatrist or psychologist. Sorry, I can't even read today. In general, even if he leaves, it would be good for him. Yeah, it would be good for him. I think he really needs a reset this offseason. And I don't know if that's here. I don't think he's going to start here next year. If he is here, I think it would be with a veteran, whether that veteran is Mike White or someone else. And then maybe kick the can down the road, or if he needs to be traded somewhere and a developmental guy. But clearly, he needs it's mental. There's talent. There is talent there. I'm not going to say that he's not a talented player. He is. He just struggles with really, really basic things that most quarterbacks don't struggle with, and that is tail spinning him in the NFL right now. Jingle Dub says we aren't getting Lamar. And right above that, Jets Gang says it's Lamar or bust. That's the thing. I don't think Lamar Jackson's going to be available. I think they franchise tag him or extend. They should extend him, but I think at minimum they franchise tag him. I would say it's probably unlikely that Lamar Jackson shakes free and somehow becomes a member of the New York Jets. That just does not seem very likely. Brendan Keene says, I like Broderick Jones. Small sample size, nuts. He's played like every position on the Georgia O-line. Yeah, he's versatile. He is versatile. I don't know if I put it at the same level as like AVT, but I think he would be a solid player, and I'd be more than okay with him if he was the pick. I really think any of those four that I just listed off. And again, it's still early. I want to really put more of a focus on the playoff push right now, but in the offseason, we'll really dive into these prospects, whether it be through the NFL draft or free agency or the quarterback options, go over pros and cons, and really, again, dive in pretty deep here. But I am looking forward to getting into those guys, but in a little bit more detail. But of the stuff that I started with, I feel comfortable with those four. If they were the pick in the first round, I think, they're all first round worthy. And where I think the Jets are going to be picking somewhere, in the high teens to low 20s. So. Kane Smith says, Matt, let's say we draft a right tackle in this draft. Where should Becton play then? He should be a backup for both tackle spots. I don't think you go into next year with him trying to rely on him being a starter after missing 2 years. I think he'll be here. Obviously, you don't pick up the fifth-year option with him. I don't think you can after he's missed the last 2 years. But as we've seen this year in particular, you need depth on the offensive line. So that would be my that would be my route to go with it. I'd have him be a backup, and if injuries come in and he has an opportunity, then go ahead. I'm rooting for the guy. I liked Mekhi Becton a ton, but I think it'd be a disservice to this team after he's missed 2 straight years, like not missed a little bit of time in each. No, he's had 2 back-to-back season-ending injuries. You can't rely on that as a starter going forward. Mark Miller says Jets need a vacation therapy and to work with someone in the offseason. Yeah, I agree. I think he needs to go back home to Utah and work with his quarterback coach and really work on the fundamentals. you're right. He definitely does. And whether it works out here or somewhere else, or if it doesn't work out at all, I feel bad for the kid. I really do, because again, I think there's talent there, and there's a reason why he was, rated so highly coming out. It's just it's all mental for him right now. Kev Chada says Zach needs to ask Santa Claus for a brain that mentally processes quick. Yeah, it's a little quick for him right now. You're right. The game is going at a different speed that he's not used to, and it's noticeable. That's one of the big reasons why the Jets are, or why he was struggling so much when he was starting for the Jets. Let's see. Green Truth says back to Sunday. Jets win if they can stop the run. They have been getting gashed lately. Lockett is supposedly out. Yeah, that's going to be key. I think Quinn and Williams being back should that they struggled a little bit against Jacksonville at times. I think them getting him back in another week and not killed as much, which what we've seen this year, they haven't gone 3 and out as much with Mike White as compared to Zach Wilson. So the defense should be rested a little bit more. They'll also be rested because it's a longer week. I think both of those are good points. And supposedly Lockett.
There's never been a better time to get away with a.
We get the Pro Football Reference advertisements. Gotta love it. Jets gang says from Richie stats, Mike White haven't been that much better than Zach. Jets gang, I beg to differ. And I really like Zach Wilson coming out. It's really a big thing. It was a big swing. I liked him. It hasn't worked so far. It's frustrating, but no, the offense has not run as smoothly with Zach as compared to Mike. If Lockett is out, bracket DK and let Sauce play one-on-one all day. Yeah, they're not going to do that. I think Sauce could handle it, but they've shown that they're going to be very stubborn and stick to one guy takes one side of the field, one takes other, and it doesn't matter. And now DJ Reed's had a really great year also, and I think the Jets are going to be able to do it. Kane Smith says, Matt, thoughts on upgrading on LaMarcus Joyner? I like Brian Branch, safety from Bama. Yeah, I liked him last year. I thought when he was going to come out, Jordan Battle. I think that's definitely a position you want to upgrade on. Safety and linebacker you need help on as well. Matt, everyone is talking about our running not being productive, and I disagree. It's not the running back. It's the line. Atrocious plays is the opposite team stacking the box, as shown no respect for Zach Wilson. Yeah, when I played the clip earlier on in the show today, that was Robert Saleh talking about how teams were stacking the box against him, and it was hard to run. And when your offensive line is as banged up and as struggling as what it is right now, it's going to be very, very difficult to have any kind of success. My hope is that you're able to take a few shots down the field and maybe connect on some more intermediate stuff and some things over the middle with Mike White. And that backs the defense off a little bit, because right now, like I said, you really can't survive with how the offense was functioning. My hope is that that changes and that they look a little bit more consistent. That's a big one for me. Brian says both teams would need to eat the cost in 2023, which is close to $20 million for both players. Oh, they're talking about the player-to-player trades in the chat right now with Zach and Trey Lance. Yeah, I'm not really interested in that. You're trading one project for another. I don't think that's really a wise decision at all right now, unfortunately. Micro Fox says what the Jets will need to prepare for is passes underneath that killed us against the Lions and the Jaguars. Our weakness isn't deep. It's that intermediate area. Yep. And that linebackers too. We still have some Zach defenders in there, and look, I'm rooting for Zach. I want it to work out for him. I just don't know how you could see what he's shown this year and think that he should still be on the field right now. I think the best case scenario for him is to sit and get right in the offseason to save himself. Whether that's here or somewhere else, I don't know. But it doesn't look good at all right now, and he needs this reset again. J-Boy says, why would you play the pass against Zach? Everybody knows it will go 10 feet over the wide receiver. You're not going to have that. Mike White is much more accurate. He might not have a strong of an arm, and he might not be able to roll out, but he's going to make the throws that the average quarterback should make, which Zach wasn't able to do. It was very boom or bust. He would connect on some really big plays, some really nice plays, and then the easy stuff that should be layups or gimmies, he wasn't able to do. Sneakers to Boot says the biggest obstacle the Jets offense will have is managing the 12th man. That's true. Seattle is a very, very difficult place to play. There is no denying that. Obviously, the Seahawks team has fallen off a little bit. It's not easy. It's not going to be an easy one, but I think they'll be up for the task. Mr. McMoney asked, did you hear the Derek Carr news? Yeah, we did. We talked about it a little bit earlier. He is benched. He is not starting. That makes me feel like his time there might be coming to a close. B-Man says, hey, Matt, Jake is up for my idea if you were up for it. Yes, I saw your message. If he's in, count me in as well. Green Truth says, run the ball, get first downs, and the 12th man goes away. Yep, hard not to agree on that one. I think that's absolutely the recipe for success against that Seattle team. And guess what? That Seattle run defense, as we talked about earlier, really not good. That's one of their bigger weaknesses. So I think that's an area that you could absolutely exploit and, again, make life a little bit easier. J-Boy with some positivity for Mike White says MW is the best quarterback the Jets have had since 2015, maybe longer. Yeah, I would say yes. I would say since 2015, Fitzpatrick had a really nice season. I would say this is the best quarterback play since 2015, Ryan Fitzpatrick. I don't think it's really that crazy to say. You had some moments from Darnold. You had some moments from McCown. You had a couple of games from Zach, but not consistent enough. Kev Chada says, any good New Year's at midnight tradition? Not really. I'm kind of boring. This year I have plans. I'm going out to see a comedy show on Long Island with my girlfriend, and then we'll come back and just have a glass of champagne and watch the ball drop, kind of a thing. I've done go out to the bars a couple of times, and that's fun. But I think I'm kind of past that point. Maybe I'm a little washed at this point, but that's not really my personality anyway. I'm kind of more of a reserved person to myself, and I'd much rather just come home, avoid the crowds, and just relax and have a nice glass of champagne. Raymond comes in with the super chat. What's up, man? Thank you so much for hanging out with us. He says, get Elijah Moore in the tight end. Uzama involved early and everything will follow. Yeah, let's pull that up for a second. Let's pull up Elijah Moore's numbers. Now, obviously, we know his best game this year was against the Bears, the first one that Mike White started. Pull this up and scroll this down. Yeah, he had 64 receiving yards and a touchdown. He also looked pretty good against Buffalo, 6 catches, 60 yards. Against Detroit was involved, 4 catches for 51, excuse me. Not a whole lot going on in Jacksonville, although they didn't really pass the ball at all. I agree. I'd like to get the ball to Elijah Moore in space and let him do his thing. And as for Uzama, he's kind of come on a little bit in the receiving game. It was a heavy Tyler Conklin, but over the last few weeks, 31 yards, 7, 41, 30. Now, was a big play. He had a big play in this game. He had a big play in this one. So it's only really been like one big game pop, but I like CJ Uzama a ton. And I think it would be wise for them to get him involved. And they really haven't used him in the red zone yet. I think that would be the time to do it. T. Rivera says, Matt, love your show. Merry and Happy New Year, Christmas. Keep doing what you're doing. Let's support Mike White. Win the next 2 games. And hope we in because no one wants us to see us there. Yeah, with that defense, it's hard not to believe that there's going to be any offense that wants to go against the defense, especially the Bills and Josh Allen. Robert Saleh said a few weeks ago they want another crack at Buffalo. One more time up there in Buffalo for all the marbles. That seems like a lot of fun. I'm in there. Thank you so much, T. Rivera, for the super chat. It means a whole lot. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year's. Happy holidays to you and your family. Hope you guys have the absolute best. What else we got going on in here? A lot of infighting about Zach Wilson. Oh, God. You poor guys. It's going to be a long offseason of this, unfortunately, I think. Jud Boy says, I will say tight end. Oh, sorry, it dropped out. I will say with tight ends, I want to see some Jeremy Ruckert. Yeah, I will too. I will say that too. I think this year feels like a wash for Ruckert, which is fine. When you signed Uzama and Conklin, it was always going to be like him as a developmental kind of guy. But I think there's a chance they cut one of those 2 guys loose. Let's do that. Let's look up the Tyler Conklin because I personally like the leadership ability that CJ Uzama brings. So let's look at Tyler Conklin's contract and see if the Jets could get out of it after this year. So we'll pull that up. His cap hit, and a ton of pop-up advertisements. I hate this on Over the Cap. So if you were to cut pre-June 1st, it would save you just 1.2 million, and you'd have 7.3 million dead cap. If you were to cut post-June 1st, it would save you 2.8 or really 2.9. And there would be 5.6 million in dead cap. So it would save you a little bit. Can you trade him? If you traded him, that would save a little bit more. If you traded him post June 1st, that would save a lot. I don't see that happening. I don't really think they could do that. A restructure. Maybe they could restructure. That would be a way that they could do it. But for me, of the 2, I'd rather keep Uzama and probably move from Conklin, which is surprising because I was so high on Tyler Conklin in the offseason coming in and early on this year, but he's been a little disappointing. As what Jeremy from Jets Chaos says, Conklin has been disappointing. Yeah, I think the last few games have been really tough for him. But I'm okay with a Jeremy Ruckert and CJ Uzama 1-2 punch at the quarterback position. Jingle Dub says Ruckert will be in the mix next year. Yep, I agree with that. I definitely think that he is going to be in the mix and more than likely will be involved in the plans going forward. J Boy says, I have a feeling he's going to be a monster. I hope so. What a story that would be if he just turns out to be an absolute stud playing for his favorite team that he grew up watching. Let's see. Micro. Okay. Hey, Matt, there's a lot of talk about Woody Johnson that he will force Saleh to fire LaFleur. What are your thoughts on that? I haven't seen that. I'm going to have to look for that after this stream, and maybe we'll dive into that tomorrow. I don't think that's going to be the case. I would be surprised if they did. And if that ended up happening, I'd be upset if they let the owner really call the shots. I think that's Woody's biggest flaw is that he gets involved. Let the football guys do the football stuff. And you just take care of paying people. Showing up, do your TikToks, do your videos, do the release the jersey on Wednesday and Thursday, and don't get involved. Let Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh do their thing. Green Truth says, any news on Joyner or Mims? Mims is supposedly in the last stage of protocol joiner. Let's see if there was anything from him or for him. He will not return to practice today. So that feels like probably unlikely that he goes this week. Kev says, what players are playing their last 2 games with the Jets? Whew. Give you a few. Corey Davis, I will say probably. George Fant, I would say. Maybe Tyler Conklin, who we just talked about. Maybe Carl Lawson, unless they restructure. I'd be more open to restructuring there. Yeah, that's all that pop. Oh, maybe Laken Tomlinson too. He's been extremely disappointing. Kevin C. Jets Pretzel says Woody's an excellent owner. State of the art facility and delegated all to JD. I don't know if I'd go as far and say excellent, but I do like that he walked back the triangle of death, what I called it, which was when the old reporting structure that they had. Do you have a Tyler Lockett update is what's being asked right now. Let's take a look at Lockett. Let's see if he's going to be good to go. I haven't seen anything as of right now. Yeah, I don't have an update on that right now. I'm looking, but it doesn't look like anything new. It's all old stuff, and it's all kind of speculative on whether he'll be able to go or not. That'd be cool. It would be a nice 1-2 punch to see Sauce and DJ Reed battle those two guys. So I'm kind of rooting that they do go. I think it'd be a good challenge. Oh, Braden Mann. How did I miss Braden Mann? Thank you, guys. Lockett is going to be out, says artist formerly known as Indy Jets. Let's see. Corey says, how much would it cost for us to keep White, even if we go the vet route? Also, 10 to 12 million is where I've been at. Bring in Mayfield. I don't think Baker Mayfield is going to come here. Rich says, I'll take Carr and Adams. That'd be nice. I know that's not happening, but maybe one. Ty Johnson? Yeah, Ty Johnson. It could probably be his last game with the emergence of Bam Knight. I would say yes. I don't know if I'd say as that Pinnock has been balling for the Giants. He's been okay, serviceable. I was going to say okay. I would say serviceable. Joe Grana says, I would extend both Douglas and Saleh. They are the stability and credibility of the organization and the draw for future free agents at this point. Yeah, you're not wrong. I think both have done a pretty good job. They got to figure out quarterback, which is the big one. But that's going to do it for me today. We hung out with you for almost an hour today. It was a lot of fun. Thank you so much for hanging out with me on this Wednesday. We'll be back tomorrow. In the morning, you'll have a preview for Jets Seahawks. And then you also have another Jet Report tomorrow. Thanks for hanging with me. I'm Matt O'Leary, and I will catch you next time.